Hey everybody, Brett from AstartesGaming here, back with another Mount Blade 2 Bannerlord video. Today, I would like to show you guys my list of the 10 most anticipated mods for Bannerlord. That is to say, my 10 most anticipated mods for Bannerlord. Now, these are not mods that I would like to see made for Bannerlord necessarily. These are existing Mount Blade and Mount Blade Warband mods that I would like to see remade or remastered for Bannerlord because I enjoyed them so much on the original games that I would like to re-experience them in the new engine with, the better graphics and better gameplay. So with that in mind, here is my top 10 list in no particular order, starting with none other than A Clash of Kings. So if you follow my channel, you know that I really enjoy this mod. This is one of the featured series on my channel. I love the universe of Game of Thrones or Clash of Kings or Song of Ice and Fire, however you want to refer to it. I really enjoy the way the lore has been worked into this particular mod. I like the side quests. I like the little storylines that you can go on, the little events that happen in certain areas, and then the various different factions and the way that the game can sort of play out dynamically based on the quests you do, where certain factions can join the fray or a certain faction can get crushed based on a quest you do, rather than just the usual dynamics of Warband. And so that's something I think is really unique to this mod and really cool, on top of all the other cool stuff that comes with it being a Game of Thrones mod. So next up we have BRYTENWALDA. Now this mod hasn't gotten a lot of attention lately. It seems like it's been sort of forgotten about, and somewhat for good reason, in that this mod was so good and so innovative when it came out that it actually spawned its own expansion or paid DLC. The developers actually contacted these mod makers and had them make Viking Conquest for them. So I'm sure many of you guys have played or at least heard of Viking Conquest. It's like a paid DLC you can purchase on Steam. And so BRYTENWALDA was the basis of that, and it added a lot of cool game mechanics and features that weren't in the vanilla game, on top of being set in a really cool period of history where there was a lot of turmoil and strife going on, particularly in England, which is where the mod was set during the time where you had the Saxons and the Vikings coming to attack and raid these people. And so the game allows you to kind of sail around on a Viking longship and be a raider, or you can, play it out in more typical Mount Blade fashion, where you are trying to conquer land and build up a kingdom. So this offered a lot more variety in the play style, on top of being able to play as a Viking, which, everybody wants to do. So next up, we have Star Wars Conquest. Now this mod is difficult for me to discuss for a couple reasons. I do like this mod. I want to love this mod, but because it was developed on the original Mount Blade, it's difficult to play currently. And if you follow my channel and my Star Wars Conquest series, you'll know that the ported version to Warband is less than stable and a bit rough around the edges, to put it nicely. So while this mod had and could still have a lot of potential, I don't think it's been fully realized yet, and I would really like to see this redone completely in Bannerlord for the extra stability. And there's a lot of issues with the mod that I think having better modding tools and a better engine could really help sort of smooth over. But I don't want to talk too much about this mod because the next one is actually very similar, and some of those issues I have with this mod are actually going to be the same for the next one, so I can kind of discuss them both together. And that mod is Clone Wars Conquest. Now this is actually being developed by a friend of mine, and I've done a couple videos showing this one off on the channel. It's essentially just Star Wars Conquest, but redone with Clone Wars era units and heroes. And so it plays effectively the same as Star Wars Conquest, But I think, at least in my opinion, that the setting of the Clone Wars is a better setting for a Mount and Blade style game. It makes a little bit more sense in the context of how you're playing it, because in Star Wars Conquest, you're playing during the original trilogy, where you have the Empire and a Rebel alliance, and the Rebels don't so much as hold territory the way a faction would in Mount and Blade. They're more, like underground. They have hidden bases and things like that. And so the big outright war that happens in, Star Wars Conquest doesn't kind of make perfect sense in that setting. Whereas in Clone Wars Conquest, it makes perfect sense. You have the Republic, you have the Confederation of Independent Systems going at it, and it fits a lot better. Plus, you've got way more, unit diversity. You don't just have like human in one outfit versus human in like white plastic outfit. You've got like clone humans in cool armor against like a huge variety of robots and weird looking aliens. So overall, I just find the setting better, but I will be more than happy to play any Star Wars mod that's made for Bannerlord. So following up our Star Wars mods, I have GEKOKUJO. This is also a mod I'm currently doing a series on my channel, and if you followed those, you'll know that I am a huge advocate for this mod for one reason. Well, there's several really good things about this mod, but the one that stands out most to me anyways is the lack of shields. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is an absolute game changer, because it makes archery so much more potent, because nobody can just sit there and tank a bunch of arrows with their shield. Now you're taking them directly to your health, and it really, really changes the game. The game plays much, much faster because you don't have these big turtling formations of infantry running around. I believe the speed of the horses is also raised slightly as well. So everything feels faster, more fluid. Plus, it's set in a really cool period of history. I mean, I use cool kind of loosely here because a lot of people, die during these periods of history, which is unfortunate, but it makes for good action game settings. And so the Sengoku period in Japan, you had all these different clans basically all fighting each other for control. And that's where this is set, so it makes a perfect setting for a game like this, where you basically just have a free-for-all of all these different factions going at it. Plus you get, really, really cool and unique samurai armor, which is something that you don't really see in any other mod for any of the Mount and Blade games. And so for that reason alone, as well as everything I mentioned before, I think this would be a great addition to Bannerlord as well. So next up, I have Nova AETAS. This mod is really, really cool in that it takes the setting of Calradia that the original Mount Blade and Warband and even Bannerlord are all set in, and it basically takes it forward in time to effectively what would be like roughly the Renaissance era, but in Calradia. So you have like pike and shot type tactics happening. However, it's not in like a historical setting, so there's a lot more room for leeway. And so, whereas, typically you're looking at European history when looking at these types of warfare, in this mod, you've got a lot more diversity because obviously not everybody's going to follow the same path because that's what works. This one, the game has been balanced so that certain factions can do a variety of things, while other factions can focus on the more traditional stuff. Overall, it plays really, really well, and it's a lot of fun. It also added some really cool colonization mechanics, which is something that you don't see in any other mod that I'm aware of. And it also allowed you to tailor-make units for your faction, equip them piece by piece, and then recruit them through a really, really cool mechanic that nobody else has done anything like in any other Warband mod. Now we have Prophecy of Pendor, which is actually what has been playing in the background. Prophecy of Pendor is, in my opinion, probably the most difficult, the most hardcore Warband mod that you can play. It's set in sort of like a dark fantasy setting, where you have like evil heretics running around the map. You have elves that are sort of reclusive but very, very powerful and very, very dangerous. And this mod is, again, in my opinion, probably the most challenging that you can find, especially in the early game, but also very much into the late game. The garrison sizes have all been increased pretty dramatically, so you can't go solo castles anymore. You need to slowly build up your kingdom. You can't just go, cherry pick one castle and start your empire that way. You will never succeed in the first place, and even if you do, you're going to get crushed immediately. And then the difficulty of the various enemies is increased as well, and the durability of armor is also much, much higher. So well-armored enemies are actually able to take several hits before they go down, and the same is true of the player, although it doesn't feel like as much because the enemies will hit you so hard and so fast that it may not matter. But yeah, if you're looking for a good challenge, this would be a great way to go, and for people looking for a good challenge in Bannerlord, this would be an awesome transition over to that game as well. Now, what would a medieval combat game be without a Lord of the Rings mod? I mean, really. Blood in the West is the most prominent one, although I believe there have been other attempts at it. This is the only one up on ModDB as far as I'm aware, and the only one I've played. It doesn't add a whole lot of new features or anything, other than, basically placing you in Middle-earth and allowing you to play around in that setting. Although it does allow you to have all of the members of the Fellowship of the Ring join your party as companions, so that's really cool. You can play with Frodo and Sam and Aragorn and Gandalf and all your favorite characters. But otherwise, the gameplay doesn't change much here, although there are some really cool armors and you can play as orcs and things like that, so that's fun as well. Alright, so with this one, I'm kind of lumping a few mods together. There have been a ton of different Roman era mods made for Warband and the original Mount Blade. So while I'm saying Rome at War here, I really just mean like a good Roman era mod. I chose Rome at War because it was the most popular on ModDB. However, that hasn't always been the case and may not always be the case moving forward. But again, any Roman mod will do. I would just really like to see something in that historical setting that would be carried over to Bannerlord, because I know that myself and many other people were hoping that the Calratic Empire would have more of a Roman influence to it. And what we've seen so far of the Bannerlord gameplay and the factions, they seem to be taking a much, much later influence. And so the Roman influences we do see are more Byzantine and, again, much later, taken in the 11th century rather than like the Dark Ages, which I was hoping for, and I think a few others were as well. Okay, and finally we have WARSWORD Conquest. So this is a mod based on the Warhammer Fantasy Universe, which is the same universe that, Total War Warhammer is based on. And if you've ever played this mod, you'll know that this mod probably has the most custom assets in it of any mod out there for Warband right now. You can play as orcs, you can play as like goblins, dwarves, humans, obviously. You can play as chaos heretics, Skaven, which are like these humanoid rats. There is basically every faction that you can think of in WARSWORD Conquest, and all of them are playable. They all have custom armor and weapons and are surprisingly well done. I mean, some of it looks like an amateur modeler did it, but it's still fairly high quality, like surprisingly high quality in many of the cases. And it's a blast to play because, riding around on the back of like a giant warg as this big, mean-looking orc with an axe bigger than your body is something that you can't really do in any other mod that I'm aware of. So Warhammer is great for over-the-top type stuff, and I think this mod represents that really, really well. And so I think this would be a nice, refreshing change to some of the other mods, which are, if not entirely historical, still very based in historical settings, where this one is just, again, super over the top, super fun, really violent and just crazy, and a nice change of pace from everything else. So this has been my top 10 list. I know I've missed plenty of stuff because, again, I only went with 10 choices here. If I made an infinitely long list, I could have come up with several more. But considering I've only got 10 here, I'd love to hear what your top 10s are, or, you know, just any that you thought I missed. I would love to see, just off the top of my head, you know, like a historical Greek setting would be fantastic. I'm sure there are plenty others that I can't think of right now, but again, feel free to make some suggestions down in the comments as to what you guys would like to see. And I'll try to keep the Bannerlord content coming until there's more news to discuss for the game. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time.